Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, making noise, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. And I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I do continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And greetings on this Tuesday evening, October the 12th now, 2022. It's 69 degrees and clear in Meigs, Georgia. I hope that you are doing well wherever you may be. Um, I got an interesting email the other day that said that one of my videos that I did about crazy history or odd history or something like that. The titles in the thing that I did a while back is unfit for human consumption. Woo, whatever I said in that video was just, was against the guidelines. I've said something to tick off the AI that I'm, I seriously doubt that anybody sat from YouTube sat through one of my videos and said, "Ooh, we can't have this." Maybe, but I don't know what I said to upset the AI. Bob, we love you. I haven't said that enough. I know. So maybe the AI is picking on us little folk because there's so many channels that have been dropped or have changed formats to Rumble or some other format. And but they're no longer on YouTube because of the strikes they got for whatever they talked about. So I'm like, if I hit the big time now, because now whatever I'm saying in the videos is like, woo, okay. So it just, instead of being pissed, I laughed, and I'm still laughing. I'm like, what? you know, I have hit the big time because I've said something that got noticed. And well, we can't have you talking about that, Hawkeye. We can't have you talking about this kind of stuff, but because it might be misinformation. How about that? So what do I got to say for that? It's almost 20 minutes after, and I say cheers, you know, for whoever wants to join or not join or whatever. I've hit the big time. I've had, actually, this is my second YouTube strike. They took one of my videos down because I'd used music from somebody else. Well, I think it was the Beatles, but the fact that the algorithm for choosing what's supposed to be good for listeners or not, for people to make up their own decisions as to whether or not whatever I may have said. And I think I got an idea. I think it had to do with those buildings in a certain city that got struck, blah, blah, blah. And I went on a short tirade about how, come on, you know, everybody knows that it was a setup and blah, blah, blah. I won't go into it any more than that because, ooh, that this should be struck. Not that I do so many videos and I'm not monetized in any way, so it doesn't really matter. But it matters in the fact that, um, trying in my language, I try to avoid certain subjects and words and topics. But apparently, in this one video that I did about weird things in history or something is the title, was the title. Um, that I said something to tick off the big guys, and that if I have 20 people that watch and like a particular program, ooh, that's a lot of influence. So the fact that the algorithm would somehow pick out something that I discussed in one of my videos, that would somehow they would look at my viewership, they would look at how many subscribers I have and go, this video and this guy, we need to strike his video because he's a threat. What? I'm a, I mean, because they strike you for because you have content that they feel could be a threat to other people or distasteful. Really? Okay. But the fact that, my 500 and however many subscribers I have at the moment, that fluctuates, and Mossy Man are again resubscribed to my channel. Thank you. And some other folks too. But the idea that somehow, there you are. I was just talking about you, Mossy Man. Just before you came in the chat, thank you, Mossy Man, for, Um, are you the same one? Or are you a different Mossy Man? That we have talked on the phone, Mossy Man. I'm just I'm just curious. Because I just noticed in my email tonight that you had subscribed, and I was like, you are the same one. Okay, all right. How you doing out yonder? But so I have done so many videos that are so controversial with so many subscribers that my impact on society that they got to they got to cancel one of my videos. I I can't stop grinning. I'm like, what? I've hit the big time. What? Somebody, what? Are you serious? That seriously think that little old me deserves to be, have a strike against one of my videos? Honest to God, and they did, with the warning that if you do something like this again, we'll, restrict you from, being able to upload pictures or videos to YouTube for their whatever the time limit is, right? And I looked at it and I looked at it and I laughed and I looked at it and I laughed and I'm still laughing at it. I'm still grinning. I'm going, you can't be serious. Something that I've said has pissed off the AI. Seriously? you know, Little old me, I've pissed off the AI. you know, I pissed off somebody at YouTube. Hooray for me! What? I'm sorry. I find it extremely humorous where other people are like, I can't believe that they're you know, I'm tickled to death. I'm laughing my grits off. Hey Jody, how are you? A bodke? Thank Bobcat. What? Who? You're a new somebody. Hi, how are you, Bobcatty? Bobcatty. Okay. Yeah, for hitting the big time. Absolutely. Hey, Deborah, how are you? Bob's Revenge. I absolutely thought about that earlier, Jody. I swear to God. Hey, Chloe. I don't know if I said hi or not. But I'm like, oh, when I got the email, I was like, you can't, honestly, you can't be serious. Really? Really? I mean, you chunked a video? What the hell did I say? You know? But it was something about weird history or something like that. And I probably threw something in there about, that thing in September, that blah blah blah, and the two buildings, and I ain't gonna say no more. But I was very specific about a couple of things for maybe 10 minutes, and talking about things in history. But I talked about other things in history. I was going back and thinking about, in my 70 years, I've seen a lot of shit. A lot of shit's happened. And so has it. Some of you have lived through it as well. But when you hear folks talking about certain things that happened 40 or 50 years ago, they tell it like they know what they're talking about, and they weren't there. And there are those of us who are like, whoa, whoa, hang on. I was there. I lived through that period. Hey, whoa, 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 hang on. Y'all got it wrong. I'm sorry. That is not how the story goes. But the retelling of history is always, by the author, has always changed something. On Robert's, with Robert tonight on doing the stories and everything on his channel on Milky Way. He was talking about the book that he was reading from about Quetzalcoatl, and then you get folks who in the early 1900s, even and since then, have changed the story, have changed the picture, have changed the narrative, and it's because of religious um, influences and so forth. And it's like, what, you know. So history is always being changed. And I always tell folks, go back to the furthest story that you hear. Not one that somebody's retelling recently. Same thing with the Bibles. Get an older Bible. Uh, the the Douay Rheims version of which was the old Catholic Bible at the time, and read it instead of the King James version. It's just so much easier to read and understand, and there's not a lot of thous and thys and these and those and weird configurations of terms. And the use of the word adore. So in some of the one of the things that I can complain about is that mankind through history has changed the language and rhetoric of things. And so many things have been written as worship when it's actually adore. So, the stories of old about sun worship, some of the priests and nuns and folks in the Catholic Church, they have early morning services. They have sunrise services. Why? Because it's a new day. It's the sunrise. Well, they offer mass at sunrise, but why sunrise? Okay. So, and the Catholic Church is one of the, boy, you talk about rituals and stuff. Woo-hoo. Um, um, but so a morning service is honoring the sunrise, okay? Because Jesus rose on the third day around sunrise. So but there's the sun in there, but they don't really want to call it, they call it sunrise service. But why? Well, it's at sunrise, but why do you do it at sunrise? It's to honor the sun. Shh, don't tell anybody. So the Catholics, when they do sunrise services, guess what? They're following old pagan traditions. Why would you do it at sunrise? Why can't you do it at 9 o'clock? Don't that work? Well, it doesn't sound as good. We're going to have a 9 o'clock, we're going to have a brunch service or something. No, it's a sunrise. Why the sunrise? Because they're going back to ancient traditions. That's why. It's the Catholic religion, and they don't want you to know that, but they're still following pagan traditions. Shh, don't tell anybody, right? So, but anyway, the fact that I got a strike, I'm really curious as to what did I really say. Oh, Barry, you're in the house. Hi, how are you? Jody, on top of that, the KJV adds several Hebrew words that most people don't even know. Yep, I agree. So, but anyway, in this, I can't believe whatever I said was, stricken from the record. But it makes me wonder if that, like, for example, YouTube doesn't have as many people to pick on because there have been so many people that have already had it up to here that they've changed formats. They don't do videos anymore. And my curiosity is like, so it's not that I'm the bottom of the barrel, which I should be as far as subscribers and viewers and that kind of thing, to have been struck by the YouTube thing. Make are do they not have enough people to pick on? Isn't there enough stuff out there for them, for the AI, for Bob's friends and neighbors and whoever's out there that are the algorithms that are going through my voice because I don't show any text or anything. So, unless they turn on the what do you call it? That closed caption that will show I'm supposedly, me talking or whatever. That so they got to listen to it. So whatever they listened to, or whatever the algorithm said, wait a minute, we don't like what Hawkeye said, and we're going to delete this video. Seriously, you got down to the bottom of the barrel? Well, you got to pick on me? Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. Really? I mean, really? 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 Uh, what? Really? Oh my goodness gracious me. Um, you know, and it's not like I'm here to try to piss off the AI. That ain't it, you know. And I do feel like I have the right to say any god dog thing I want to. And it's my choice as to how I might phrase it or use it. I've been trying my best, personally, just to not, use a lot of curse words. When back in the day, there was a lot of cussing going on. And sometimes I let loose and let fly a few wordy dirds. But basically, I'm trying to keep it clean, just because, for my own personal thing, well, I know I can curse and do whatever I want to and say whatever I want to and maybe get, thrown off of YouTube. Okie dokie. Because it's my right and it's my freedom. Okay. But at the same time, I kind of like to play along with the game and try to get my point across in other ways, right? And without cursing all the time and without doing this and that. And, you know, so whatever I did on that video of the history of whatever I was talking about, strange things in history or something like that was the title. So I'm sure I hit upon a couple of things, and that right there, the word history in the title would have drawn attention, and and other little things. And so, but the fact that it got flagged and turned down, I'm like, oh my God, I've hit the big time. I've absolutely, for whatever reason, have hit the big time. That me and my dear little channel here, after all these years, have been hit with a strike about something I said. Honest to God? Really? Really? Oh man, I feel like I'm up there. I've got 500,000 subscribers. I'm like what you call it now, or Doodle Flop or Humpty Scrunch. I got a strike from YouTube. because of something I said. Oh my God. And I don't know if it was political or not because they didn't specify. They just said the video. So, but my curiosity is, what the hell did I say? you know, what pissed off the AI? you know, I mean, just out of curiosity, what was it? Right? Did I talk about the Catholic Church again? And did I talk about how crazy the Pope is? And but who knows? And now that Joe Biden has pardoned everybody that with marijuana, you've heard about that, right? There's nobody in jail for possession of marijuana on the federal level, but he pardoned them. So he pardoned a bunch of non-existing marijuana felons who were okay. I'm picking on him, right? But the facts came out, right? Like, wait a minute. So, but the interesting thing is that Miss Kamalaba, the VP, she's no one should be in jail because they smoke weed. Well, okay, then take that, make it, sign that bill that's been up there for the last 3 years that decriminalizes marijuana and takes it out of the schedule that it's in, and let the people on the states levels get put out of, let them come home, let my record be cleared because I was arrested for a little over an ounce of marijuana, which is a felony in the state of Georgia. So I was in possession of it, and oh, I'm a felon because of the quantity amount. Okay, but so let's talk about that. But anyway, here's the weird thing. They're talking about it in obscure ways. Like Kamala Harris and doing an interview, and she's like, "Well, nobody should be in jail for smoking weed." When she put a bunch of people, when she was, working as a prosecutor, in jail for exactly that. But they're talking about it. Well, nobody should be in jail for smoking weed. Well, then what are you doing about it? Are you releasing anybody? Well, the president, sent, signed this thingy pardoning, okay, when there's nobody in the system on a federal level. You say, well, now how could somebody get thrown in jail on a federal level? Well, if you're in a national forest, which is federally owned, okay, and you're caught by a park ranger smoking a joint, that's a federal offense, okay? You go, wait a minute. No, if you're in a national park, which is federally operated, and they catch you with a joint or anything like that, then you can, when you're arrested, if they arrest you, it's a federal crime. That's how you get arrested for marijuana on a federal level. If you're on federal property, if you were standing around this one of the statues in Washington on federal property and smoking a joint or something like that, and they caught you, that would be a federal offense because of the jurisdiction and the property with where you're standing, right? And who arrests you? They're a federal employee, okay? So that means that you tell all your federal employees to quit arresting people for smoking weed in the national forest, because I've known folks who have been arrested in North Georgia mountains in the national forest by federal employees of the Park Service. And they did not go lightly. It was expensive because they were caught smoking a joint on a bridge in on a back road up in the national forest. Honest to God, got caught with a couple of roaches in their ashtray and were hauled off to jail and fined and sentenced and all that kind of stuff. And that's just stupid. I mean, that's just stupid. But I've had three people that I know of that have been harassed and otherwise have been in jail because of that in North Georgia in the national forest. Okay, so but anyway, so the rules are archaic, but the rhetoric that they're speaking, where like maybe there really is something up, like maybe they really will make it not illegal anymore, you know? They won't make it legal. If you don't want to make it legal, just decriminalize it. If you're caught with it, nothing's going to happen. But it's not legal. Okay, that's wait a minute. No, it's not illegal anymore. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means you can have it. Does it mean you can grow it or whatever? Well, but it's not illegal to have it anymore. Oh, but that gets into a big philosophical and blah 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 blah. Okay, fine. The bottom line, though, that there are edibles and things in the smoke shops and stuff around that have been around now for the last couple of years and are becoming even more popular. There are different kinds of edibles and things that you can get over the counter now. Um, that will get you high. And it's like, so then why this big rhetoric about, weed is still a category, whatever. Um, but the interesting thing is what's going on with the wording and rhetoric and the president and the vice president. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens. Are they just going to keep talking about it? Is it like just buzzwords that makes them look cool with the elections coming up? I mean, just what's the deal, right? So it's one of those things that, in watching the news and stuff is like, what the hell? Why this? Why now? Scratch your head. Hmm. Um, Talk about scratching your head. Totally opposite, different kind of discussion. But did y'all see where the moon came up tonight? It came up in a window over there that just it should not have come up. Um, and it's still pretty much full, which is interesting because full moon was on the weekend, and this is Tuesday. But it's in an odd place in the sky. I'm just saying, the other night I could see the full moon through the window and I could see it coming up, at an angle through the house. And tonight it was up over here and outside tonight it's like straight over the house. It's really strange how the moon came up, which means that it's moving and we're still in a flip flop. But anyway, or smoking one outside at the VA. Yeah, that would do it. But any federal building, I mean, hanging around the post office, which folks shouldn't do, um, but to the point though that it's just been an odd discussion, sort of a topic that's tossed around in an odd way, and for me, it's those odd things that you look for that are going on, and also, I've had a few people ask me, what do you think about, is Putin going to nuke us? And Putin doesn't really have any reason to nuke us. I know there's some politicians in the UN and some of them folks that might get nuked because of what they've been doing on his borders and the stuff that's been coming out, and other people are reporting, and so that bridge got bombed the other day. Then 2 days later, Kiev's being bombed and different things is going on. So there's some dadgum interesting stuff going on. But I don't think we're going to get nuked. I just there are too many people that are saying, nah, this would be bad for the whole planet. It wouldn't just be a power play by us to prove or something like that. But there's a lot of quote nuclear weapons that the United States have been using for quite a few years. They use depleted uranium and stuff, guess where, from some of the nuclear plants and things, and they coat the tips of armor piercing shells and things so that they can go in. I mean, so they've been using different types of nuclear weapons for quite a while now. So it would depend on what you mean by a nuke. Now, they've got some rockets and things that are tipped with plutonium or whatever that will, when the bomb explodes, it amplifies the explosion. And some of these look like small nukes going off. Okay, but the United States has been using them for quite a while, and they've got rounds that fit into tanks. They go on jet fighters. They've got them that'll fit on drones. I mean, so where do you distinguish the word nuke and its usage? Um, and will they nuke a small target in Kiev, but it doesn't blow the whole city up? Possibly and probably, because of the warheads that they're using. So, you know, Vladimir Putin is not, when he says we're going to use nukes, he's talking about we're going to use some heavy duty firepower. Does he mean he's going to drop an A bomb on a particular town or something and blow it to smithereens? I don't think so. But because there are so many different levels of nuke, you know, and for those of you Dante fans, did you see the video the other day that he put up about the beams up into the sky and the explanation for it? And that, Elon Musk and whoever has put all of the telecom and all those little satellites in orbit. It was a Russian general who was talking about that. They've got all these satellites that go over the Ukraine and Russia constantly, and so of course they have countermeasures. So those lights beaming up into the straight up into the sky were countermeasures for satellites and things because a lot of satellites went down and blah 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 blah. So it's like um, the war is absolutely going on. Um, when the satellites are being disrupted and when you can actually see countermeasures being used, and when the Russian general admits that, hey, this is what these beams of light that are look like flashlights going up into the atmosphere. These are countermeasures from the Russians against American and other forces, and satellite stuff. Now, ain't that interesting? So, is that alien technology per se? Or what does it mean? It means that guess what? There's a lot more going on than we here in the United States would care to agree with or are cognizant of what's going on, that there are much bigger pictures, you know, um, and not just alien, but I mean, the stuff going on, but the fact that there are different types of technologies that seem to be showing up in odd places. And these technologies are like, whoa, they're taking out the satellites. Oh, really? Yeah. Well, Russia doesn't want, you know, eyes in the sky overhead all the time, whether they're doing anything or not. It doesn't matter, you know. Hi, Amanda. Good morning to you as well. Much love and blessings right back at you. So, you know, there are so many different games that are being played, but now these games, I mean, they're real. There's real stuff going on. So, you know, there are some folks that are saying, well, this is not a game. It's true. But even though that it's not a game, it's still the game of warfare. Okay. So they're not playing around as far as it's a game and we're just, you know, but the odd thing is that in the bigger picture, there is still a game being played. Wait a minute, it's not a game, but it is, you know? It's serious. It's real war. People getting killed, shot, hung, blasted, you know, stuff's happening on many levels. But at the same time, the bigger players are treating it as a game. But it ain't to the folks who are down on the street level, if that makes any sense. Alex, how are you? Cheers and blessings right back. Hey, Isby, what you doing? Does Dante have a new channel? I haven't watched him for a while. It's hang on a second. I don't know if I can get there from here. Um, hang on, I'm Charistus and the Cause is the name of the channel. Charistus with a K, Karistus, yeah, and the Cause. Um, and he does. We're in the middle of a war, and that's one of the things that people, you know, he's over there, and sometimes you can actually hear the bombs dropping in the background. So, you know, all the videos and stuff that were promised, they're in the middle of a war over there. And good guys, bad guys, evil guys, bad guys, you know, on and off planet. So, but you know, they still put out information. The channel is still open, if you will. Uh, I, they've had a couple of videos that were taken down. Now, on some of the videos that they put up, they'll put up for a couple of hours, and then they will make them private. So unless you get special permission, it's no longer public. So there are several of them that I've missed. Like there was one today that I've missed that was only up for a little while, and I think it's enough to for me. It's like, well, they haven't put any video ups lately. Well, yeah, they have, but they've made them private right away because the content is such that they're probably going to get a strike. So they're going to put it up long enough for some folks to see it, as many as possible, and then their time limit, and they make it private. And I think that's just in being safe, so the channel doesn't get deleted altogether. So the fact that they don't put out a lot of videos, they actually have, but they've made them private. You know, but here's the thing: there is key information that's still being dropped. Dante's still putting out good information, in my humble opinion. He proved what he's discussed, dates and times and things like that. And it's like, but here's the deal: the war is definitely going on. Okay, the Third World War, it's already here, and it's been going on because of something went on in Atlanta the other day, and they blamed it on Russian hackers have delayed departures in Atlanta airport, and I'm going, are you serious? I mean, oh, and speaking of Atlanta, not necessarily airports, but since I'm just on different topics this morning, and good morning to you all, and I hope you're doing well. Is Stacey Abrams is running for governor. She's the black lady on the for the Democrats, right? And one of the commercials that they've put out is that, Brian Kemp has done this and he's bad for the economy for Georgia and blah blah blah. Now, here's the thing. Because of the his views on abortion in the state of Georgia, they claimed they've lost billions of dollars or millions of dollars of business due to Georgia's point of view on no abortion. What? How? Wait, the state is losing money. Why? Because their view on abortion is they don't want it. They don't want abortion. And so, but the state is losing money because of that view. Who's losing money on because of abortion or not? The abortion clinics, the people who do it. I mean, but the fact that they would throw that in, the state is losing money because of their point of view on abortion. What? How are they losing money? Explain to me how we're losing money because the state doesn't want to allow abortions. The state has not allowed abortions for a long time. It's been very difficult in the state of Georgia. Folks had to go across the line down to Florida, down to Tallahassee. I'm personally involved, and I've known people. So, but it's always been more difficult in the state of Georgia to get an abortion. So now, why now? Because of the abortion thing and but the state is losing money because of its positions on abortion. I don't get that. How where are we losing money because of that? What company? What thing? Oh, I'm sorry, your views of on abortion. I'm not going to bring my business, or I'm moving my business out of the state of Georgia because of your point of view. What? Seriously? But that's what the ads are. And so my question, and I scratch my head, who's losing? Where's the money? I mean, how is this involved with abortion? Regardless of your take, how are you relating millions or billions of dollars? I can't remember if it was a B or an M, meaning millions or billions, but a crap load of money was being lost because of it. From where? What company? What business? How is it? You know what I mean? So they've been slamming that here in the advertisements and stuff, for the state and so forth. And you got to listen to them. And it's like, holy crap, here comes that same one. But every time that commercial comes up, I want to know what money, what is being lost, how's it being, where do they get this, where the state is losing money because of this position. It boggles my puny little brain, right? I'm not going to vote for this woman anyway. She's got this commercial out where she's talking to grade school kids, right? And they're talking about math and how did you know that? And oh, because I did my homework and all the kids grown. Now, why is she doing a commercial with kids talking about I'll give teachers a raise and I'm going to do this? And you're talking to a bunch of kids in grade school. They can't flipping vote, you moron. So why are you doing a political commercial with or to children in grade school who can't vote? And so what's the message? Well, the message is this black woman does her message is she can only reach kids in school. She can't reach the adults. Her message isn't for the adults, it's for grade school kids. And she wants to be our governor. She's still complaining that she lost the last election because it was rigged, and nobody down here that I know of voted for her. Who is this person? Nah, I ain't voting for her. I mean, even black folk didn't vote for her. They got better sense, but somehow Miss Stacey Abrams, whose name is like all over the place. And what has this woman really done? Not a lot, except go around and make speeches in grade schools. So, because them kids can't vote, or maybe, just maybe, she's going to teach them how to do mail-in ballots in the state, and she'll get the swing vote of the middle school kids from the state. Shame on me. But I mean, every time I see the commercial, I go, wait a minute. Why grade school kids? The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, there's Stacey Abrams. But for every time I have been forced to watch it, if I want to watch certain programs, um, and thank goodness we only got another, 6 weeks or so before elections, and this stuff will stop. But the amount of money that is spent, I mean, I'm getting stuff in the mail because I live in the state of Georgia. We got people, the Brian Camp. I don't really like the guy, but I am not voting for Stacey Abrams. And there is not another choice. There just isn't. So I'm going to vote for Kemp. Yeah. Yes, he's the Republican, but um, if there were another choice, there's some things that Kemp has done. I'm not happy with him. But the better of two evils, oh yeah, I'm gonna vote for him because there's no way I could let Stacey Abrams, be the governor of the state of Georgia. Holy mackerel. Nah, that can't happen, you know. I mean, just in common sense, no lady, no, sorry, not you. Not because she's black and not because she's a lady. It's her views. I've listened to some of her rhetoric and stuff, and I'm like, no, we can't. Please, no, we do not. I don't know. We can't have you, please. And so we've got two black men that are running for senator in the state of Georgia, which is like, we're one of the states, one of the first original 13 colonies. There was slavery down here and all. And we have two black men running for senator. And a black woman running for governor again down here in a slave state of Georgia. So, there has been changes in the world. And I scratch my head and go, aren't there any other white people out there? Not that blacks shouldn't run, but there ain't any other qualified white people or even Hispanics. Come on, y'all. Ain't there somebody else out there? Just saying, to level the playing field. But so Warnock, our one of the senators in there now, has voted absolutely straight line across the board Democrat. And the folks in Georgia are going, no, we didn't like that thing that you signed, and so the guy they've got running is Herschel Walker, who is an ex football player for the Georgia Dogs in Athens, and well, there's been a couple of lies, and there's the commercial out there where his ex-wife is saying, well, he held a gun to my head and said that he was going to kill me. Well, I have talked to some other gentlemen who have like, there have been some times where I've just wanted to slap my old lady, or she made me so damn mad, I just wanted to punch her lights out, or I was ready to kill that bitch. and and they saned up and calmed down. So it's like, now is it the guy's fault? Not that I don't know if it happened or not, or they had trouble in their marriage or whatever. Okay, and he said some dumb things, but you know what? I'm going to vote for him. You know why? Because he doesn't know a damn thing. He doesn't know a damn thing about politics. So why would I vote him in? Because he's not going to get caught up in somebody else's stuff. Where Warnock, he had all these politicians that were, and all these things, and Herschel's a Republican, so hopefully he's going to be voting on the other side of the aisle to at least go, wait a minute, I don't know a damn thing, but this seems stupid. So, and there are a lot of white people that are going to vote for Herschel. Run, Herschel, run. It's sort of like go Brandon in a way for here in the state. Run, Herschel, run. He was a good tailback, and he went to, the, um, Georgia, then Athens, and college, and was go dogs, and so why not? Ain't nobody else stepped up to the picture, right? So what if he was a woman beater and a womanizer and whatever? What if he did it, whatever? Well, at least it's come out early, and he's like, I don't know anything about politics, but I'm going to run because I think whatever's been going on is spooky. So now that's spooky enough in and of itself. But it's going to be interesting to see two black men running in the state of Georgia for senator. Who's going to win? Just saying. You know, living here in the state of Georgia, you go, oh man, who's going to do this without being prejudiced of either one? Now, I am prejudiced of Warnock because of some of the stuff that he has done going strictly Democratic, but he's a Democrat, so why not? You know, and he's voting for things that are like, well, that's just dumb as hell, but okay, you know, we'll see what Herschel does. He'll have 6 years of training, you know, better than some of these other, fruit wads that have been in for as politicians for the state. But here's the thing, when you've got the quality of people that are running who are going to be making decisions on a national basis, and it ain't just here in Georgia, it's across the United States. The quality of people running, you scratch your head and you go, what? How did this person even get qualified to run for a as a politician? And they're going to be making the big decisions for all of us? You got to scratch your head and go, what's wrong with our society? There's got to be other qualified people that will say, hey, I've had enough of this. But I can see why they wouldn't, because everybody's scared out of those positions. So we end up with tailbacks from colleges who are running for United States senators with little to no qualifications other than that. Mr. Benjamin goes to Washington. It's like a fairy tale. It's going to be interesting. Omnipotent, omniscient, what are omicrons in your opinion? What do I think of the conspiracy theory that human meat is there in McDonald's burgers? I don't know. Um, I think that the mafia and folks like them have been doing weird shit for a long time. Okay. And it depends on the processing. But having had my grandfather and my pops, both, my granddad was a butcher and my pops was a meat cutter for 20 years. and like 15 of those years were the Pantry Pride, which was bought out years ago, but and a successful and a good meat cutter, and belonged to the Amalgamated Meat Cutters Union and so forth. When he was up in Ohio, he worked as one of the stewards, and had met oh, who was the guy that disappeared all them years ago? And Jimmy Hoffa. He had met Jimmy Hoffa at one point, way back in the day. Um, at some, because he was working within the union as a learning to be a union boss and whatever. He was at a gathering and shook hands with Hoffa. That was, but he met him, but to the point. Then when he moved down to Florida, he got out of all that, but was still a meat cutter. But knowing how and having been to facilities, they strip the cows down and they skin them, gut them, cut them in half, and send them in where they're cut, butchered, and ground up like on the spot. And having been in the processing plants and seen it from shooting the cows to gutting, slicing, doing, and brought in and watching them cut up the cows into sections that are then sent to like other places where my pops would get in a quarter or a half of a cow. It was his job then to cut that cow up into pieces and grind it into hamburger or cut it into steaks. So what's going on now? I mean, we have a big beef processing plant here in Moultrie, and so they bring the cows in already dead and sliced, but then they're cut up and processed and packaged, and then those meat products are sent out. When you get a half a cow in, and then it comes into the process, where does the human meat come from? So it's hard for me to envision, okay, we've got, a trailer load of cows and a bunch of dead people, and we're going to mix this together when it gets to the processing plant. I don't know. There's would have to be special processing plants that would allow this to happen, and that no one would ever speak up that wait a minute, we've got a trailer load of cows that come in, or a train load of cows in refrigerated cars that have been stripped and gutted, and they're half a cows, and they're brought in on rails, and they come in and on hooks, and they come right in, they're down on the tables, they get cut up, chopped up, and some of it goes to hamburger, and some of it goes to this, and some of it goes to making hot dogs, and it's all right there in this assembly line within this packing house. And it's hard for me to understand where people get involved in the process. Now, if you could have a process where the mafia or somebody's done something and they want to get rid of bodies or whatever, then the people within the plant would have to know this, because how the cows come in, how they get cut, they're big stainless steel tables. I've been in several plants back in the day, and I just don't see how humans get automatically tossed into this. The humans would have to already be cut up to get added into the hamburger, because they wouldn't come in if they're coming in tractor trailer loads and getting mixed in with the hamburger. There's some really weird, nefarious. I mean, there are government workers at these plants that inspect the meat. They go up and down the lines. They're always checking to make sure that, folks don't pick up something off the floor and toss it back on which in the old days I've seen them do. But the floors are basically covered in blood, if nothing else, but where everything is covered in blood when you're in a meat packing house. But so, and I've seen hogs slaughtered, which the Colquitt County, the Packers, was all about hogs. They had humongous hog killing facilities here. There's still a lot of hogs growing around here, but the packing facilities are not the same. We grow a crap load of chickens around here. And in watching how the chickens go into the plant, how they're cut, boiled, and whatever, it's hard to imagine how anything gets entered into the stream, into the process, once the half cows are brought in into the thing. So can human remains be mixed in? Okay, but is it part of the process of making the hamburger? Is it the process, because I have witnessed it myself? It somebody would have to know something, or they mixed it in after the plant was shut down, or something like that. It would have to be some really very nefarious means. And everybody in the plant would have to know, because you're just not going to sneak body parts in and add it into hamburger. The way I've seen it done in all of these different manufacturers, when they trim the fat and stuff off of the cows as they cut the steaks and stuff, that meat goes into a tray, and that tray automatically goes into making the hamburger. There's about a certain amount of fat, the percentages of, lean meat versus the fat. And so the fat and the trimmings all go into these stainless steel trays that automatically go right to the hamburger grinders. They don't save it or whatever, because as they're processing the cows, they're collecting this meat that has to go somewhere. So it automatically goes down the line and gets rendered into hamburger of different percentages depending on how much fat is in with the lean. That's the 80 or the 90 or whatever percentage you see on hamburger these days. So, but to say that humans somehow got into the process, they would have to be making it on purpose. Somebody's going to have to know about it, see it. There's going to have to be, the human remains are going to have to be um, deboned, deskinned. The skin's going to have to come off. It's going to have to be just the meat. I mean, not to say that they can't, but whoever's working in the hamburger section, um, they're going to know something's up, and somebody's going to squeal. Somebody in the plant, somebody within the process. You know what I mean? Now, could they do it with everybody knowing and added into the conglomerate of meat? Okay, but they'd have to be nefarious as hell to hear me. It ain't just going on in processing plants, because there's a lot of beef being processed. Like right now, there are folks that are working third shifts, in packing plants. The one here in Moultrie had a third shift, so they're working day and night, and beef comes in refrigerated trailers, um, both trucks and freight cars full of beef. And like I said, they've been butchered, cut in half, and they come in and then they're processed. I just don't see how somebody's going to bring in some humans and say, "We'll cut these up and toss them in the hamburger." The fact that there have been human remains found in hamburger has been, like what? Because having seen, butchering and processing plants, it's just hard for me to see how they got it um into the assembly line, because it's every bit of an assembly line. I mean, these guys take a knife and they're cutting off sections so fast, and there are, these big trays of, trimmings off of the cow before they ever start cutting it up. They trim the fat and stuff, and around, and that's normally what becomes the hamburger. But there are those companies who would, if you don't want so much fat in it and you want it to be more lean, then those folks, um, they trim more fat off of the trimmings before the hamburger is made, so it is more lean. Um, and so whatever packing plant is working to make the hamburgers for, okay, McDonald's or Burger King, um, you know, I can see the guys cutting meat on the assembly line. You got a big half a cow and they're trimming off the fat and this and that. And if there's a lot of fat, it goes into a different tray. And if there's at least about of meat on the fat when they trim it, it goes into this tray for hamburger. Because they use fat, they render it down for lard and different things like that. So, you know, they don't want meat in that. They want just the fat. So, how the trimming is done on cows. So the first couple of guys that are, as the cow literally comes down and goes past them, they're trimming and walking with it. They're slicing and cutting. They've got certain parts that they slice off every time, and then when it goes to the next guy, say it's a hip or the hind quarter. So then this guy comes in and he trims. There's a section that he trims every time, and because by the time it gets to the third guy, these cows are moving along at a decent rate, and so as they're trimming and cutting and doing, they don't have time to go all over the cow. They're given a certain section of the cow to trim, and every time the carcass comes by, they're trimming the hind quarter. This guy's trimming the front. This guy's getting belly fat. And so depending on where they're trimming depends on where that fat or the trimmings go as far as hamburger meat, if that makes any sense. But once they're gutted and on the table, it's not very gross at all. It's just a half of a cow sitting there, and sometimes the hind quarter's still twitching. When I went to the packing houses back in the 60s, there'd be parts of the cow after it's been split in half and laying on the table, it's still twitching, you know, which was really weird. Still weird to think about, but that's just how it goes. But how to get human remains into this, system of how they do cows and cut them up and things. And hogs are the same way. Chickens are different because they're smaller and different. And they got feathers, but hogs need to have their hides trimmed. They hang them up and they have to be drained. And so they have an assembly line overhead, and that goes over and down, comes back and around, and then comes maybe back around one more time. And as they work on them, they're stripping, pulling the hides off, uh, cutting their heads off, doing whatever needs done in this process. And they just, these carcasses, just as they go through the assembly line, you know they're gutted and done and this and that and the other thing, and then they're split in half, and then on the tables they go to be cut up. Hey Steve, how are you? Oh, is it? Okay, I'm ready. 4:20. It's a 20. Yeah, I'm 5 minutes past, but we'll still do it anyway. So to the question, what do I think about human meat um, in McDonald's hamburgers? Somebody could be trying to contaminate the meat. I just don't see how it's just added to the food as a general rule, simply because of the process. Could it be done? Sure. Anything's possible these days. But is it just getting added, in the system as it goes down the line? Nah, with somebody knowing. There'd have to be stripped human remains without bones and stuff, and they'd have to be chopped up. It would be very difficult for it to just be like part of the process. You know what I mean? So, I don't go to McDonald's, but it's not because there might be human remains in them. Um, that remains to be seen. Ha ha. But the idea, though, that how to get it into the meat and how to get it into the hamburger, knowing what I know about the process, and if you ever watch a video about meat processing, it'd be hard to toss a human in there. It just would, you know. So on the Rothschild family, they're a bunch of inbred, overpaid, stuff in the muds that think they know what's going on, and for them, they want to rule the world along with some other folks. The rich families go way back. I just don't pay them no mind. Why? Because I'm not rich and famous. And whatever they're doing on that higher level, I'm way down here at the bottom. And, and I just don't affiliate with them kind of folks. And whatever they do up on their level, I'm doing fine. I'm king of my level. I'm king of my little kingdom down here, my little 18 and a half acres. I'm king, you know, and I don't give a what the Rothschilds do because I'm king of my own domain, you know. I've been here 40 years. I've fought and sweat and gave blood to this property. And I'm here at 70 years old. I've made it, you know, to my 10th seven, or 7 years times 10, 70 years. I'm on a new, whatever it is, a new journey for the next 7 years at least. So folks like that, eh, don't care. No offense, omnipotent, omniscient. I don't care who's at the top, and I don't think they know. And back in the day, I used to, think about stuff like this, like, how much money is Trump worth, and who's got more money with this, and it's like, and there's like Joe Biden's got so much money, and Fauci is the highest paid, doctor, and he's worth millions, and he's made millions off of the thingy, and who's got more? I don't care, not to be rude, but so who's at the top? They argue amongst themselves. I don't think they know. And when you get to, certain billions, and with some of these families, it's trillions, um, they don't have a clue what's going on down here at the bottom. Us folks that are making, quote, their plans work, the folks who are working on the local level. who are working in the stores and in the fields and who are growing cotton. I came back from town yesterday, and oh my God, the amount of bales of hay because of all the peanuts that they have harvested. The fields are just full of bales of hay. And I'm thinking to myself, these farmers, not only do they make money off of the peanuts, but it's a double whammy for the crop because you also get the peanut hay, which is valuable to sell to folks where horses and pigs and farm, the goats eat hay, all kinds of things eat hay. So in looking at it is the local farmers are the ones who are making these products that are growing the corn. Well, actually, they're not growing much corn around here anymore. I haven't seen a row of corn down here riding around at all this year. I mean, to see a 10-acre thing of corn is rare these days. And here's the reason why: since they took the quotas off, there's a field, half of it's in peanuts and half of it's in cotton. I mean, I'm in driving around the last couple of weeks and living down here in South Georgia, and it's 15 miles into town, no matter which way I go, or 20 miles if I go. I got to go into Thomasville tomorrow, so that's a totally different scenery, totally different farms, same area, but it's still been this year has been cotton and peanuts. Now, why? Well, why grow corn? Well, down here, one of the reasons why they were growing corn was as a supplement to feed the cows and the pigs and so forth. But when you grow peanuts, you grow the peanuts, but now you've got all this peanut hay, which is rich in nutrients and everything, that you still can feed the cattle and to the pigs. So if you grow the corn, it's an either or. You either save it for your cattle or as a grain supplement, or you sell it commercially, right? So, but with the peanut thing and all the hay that's being baled up, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, they go and they turn the peanuts over for those who don't know. The peanuts dry for a couple of days in the sun, and they go in and combine them. As they combine them, it throws out, the sticks and whatever in pieces, and sometimes a peanut or two. And then there's a combine that follows up right behind the peanut combine that's collecting the hay. And as they get the peanuts out of the field, they're already making bales of hay before as they finish the field. It's been, peanuts, then it's been ground up, and then it's been turned into hay, and they go home for the day. And it's like, then there's 50 bales of hay left in the field where the peanuts and everything used to be. Now, how efficient is that? Now, why do I bring this up? Because the Rothschilds ain't got nothing to do with that. That's why. And so, why should I worry about Rothschilds when people like the farmers and normal folk, they ain't worried about the Rothschilds either. They don't give a damn about who's on top, who's on the bottom. They're worrying about getting their product in. They're worried about having hay for their cattle. They're worried about making a living and all the folks down here are like that. We don't give a crap about who's at the top because those of us at the bottom are working hard to keep what we got and to make products like cotton and to make products like peanuts to sell for whatever, you know. Peanut oil is very good, and but anyway, so better to feed the world and have peanuts, and it's like to me, they might have grown a little bit too many peanuts. Like y'all should have grown. Now there are other crops that are being grown down here, but it's been odd this year not to see much, if any, like this much corn compared to huge amounts of peanuts. The peanuts are everywhere. And the cotton, they've got a good year for cotton this year. I don't know what they did here down here in the South because the last couple of years cotton's been a little flaky, but the cotton bolls have opened and they had enough rain in the right amount of time. And right now we've had almost 3 weeks of no rain, or maybe longer, but it's been at least 3 weeks. And hey, Michelle, big old hugs and blessings back to you. The cotton is, I mean, it's full. Um, last year there were fields that were full, but a lot of them were kind of spotty. This year the cotton is just like, man, oh man, the bushes are just absolutely, it's amazing. And having picked cotton before, worked around cotton, planted it, went out in the fields and pulled out cockleburs from the fields before it's combined, and living around it all these years and watching it being combined, I've I've worked a couple of years in a cotton gin where they gin the stuff, you know. So having hands-on experience with this stuff, and ex-family members who still work in the cotton industry. There's Four Corner Gins over here in Meg's, and when my second wife, her son, now runs the gin over there. He's the major ginner. But you know, and I raised him for several years while we were married. So, you know, but anyway, with that said, that's why I mean, like ex-family members are still in the business. But the amount of effort and stuff that goes into growing cotton, um, meaning that if the soil isn't right and there's not the right amount of water, and you get boll weevils and you got to spray it, you got to do this, you got to defoliate it. There's just so much, you know, you just don't grow it and just let it go. And then you got to combine it. So one of my arguments over the years has been that the combines are so inefficient. They go too fast through the fields, and there's a lot of cotton left on the bush. This year, when going through watching these combines, whoever's doing the combining, they're getting most of the cotton. I'm proud because over the years I've been kind of sort of pissed off. You go through the field so fast and you leave all this cotton on the stalk. I mean, what's wrong with you people? You know, and they've been getting better. But this year the size of the cotton balls that are on the cotton, they're huge down here this year. Don't know who they paid, and but we got the right amount of rain at the right amount of times, and I'm glad for the farmers. And this year, I haven't heard the first airplane or helicopter fly over any cotton field and defoliate. They have changed their. Um, I'm sorry for the airplanes, but it is no longer feasible, and the farmers, if they defoliate, do it with a tractor and sprayers, which are much more efficient. And they've got cotton now that defoliates on its own. It drops its own leaves when it gets to a certain age, which I think is interesting. You know, so much for genetic manipulation with plants. Instead of having to defoliate the cotton. Now, why do they defoliate the cotton? That's an interesting point if you don't know. It's because if they leave the cotton on, like right now, if it stays on too long, then the cotton starts to sag, and then you get mildew, and then the cotton itself can get bugs versus the cotton ball, and then you're subject to weather and heat, and the cotton, it degrades, right? You want to get it at the right time. You want to get it when it's ripe. So they learned many years ago, if the old timers had to wait till the leaves fell off, which meant November, end of October, November, and sometimes into December. So they wanted to start combining cotton in September. So they defoliate the cotton was full, but the leaves were still on. So if they went to combine the cotton, they ended up combining the leaves, which got in the cotton, and it was harder to clean out when it gets into the gin, and 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 it is harder to get stuff out of the cotton. So you want to get the cotton off of the bush as clean as possible before you get it to the gin. It's worth more money that way because there's less scrap, and the cotton is graded by the amount of scrap. They take samples, and if there's a percentage, they weigh it. There's a scientific thing that they've worked out, and as far as are particulates in the cotton when it's ginned before and after. And so the tonnage that you get when you start is not what ends up as it's baled, because there's scrap, and the ginning operation will take out with the scrap, cotton clings to it, right? So but anyway, so it's complicated in its own right, but the fact that South Georgia this year looks like the cotton is really good. I'm proud for them because it's been really for crap for the last couple of years. So, and the cotton, I'm sorry, the peanuts that are grown right next to them. Oh my God, the peanuts and the bales of hail. It's actually encouraging. It looks beautiful on the land, and for the farmers and the people who do grow hogs and cows, there are folks out west that will literally come to Georgia and buy up these huge rolled bales of hay to feed their cows and so forth because they don't get enough during the winter times. So I think it's good for the economy. And what does it mean to the Rothschilds or whoever? No offense, but who cares? I used to care, I don't anymore, because it's all the people down here that are doing all these daily things. Peanuts boiled or made into butter, yep. I got a feeling that, and there are a lot of signs that the winter is going to be colder this year, Steve. We'll find out. Yeah, we've come into a drought as well. These last 3, 4 weeks, we had some rain in July and August. We had some decent rain. I mean, it rained 2 or 3 days a week, and the rain gauge outside had water in it. But we hit September and it started drying up, and which is sort of normal for us down here in the South. And I can't really complain because all these farmers around here have needed this dry spell so they can combine the peanuts and the cotton so they can have good crops. So, that's all good. It's good for the economy, especially down here. Um, and there's a lots of it's booming. Um, Driving into town and driving through the country and seeing the farmers that are actually making something, you know what I mean? They're growing stuff. It's being produced. It's being harvested, and in a timely manner. I mean, it's a good thing. The rest of the world is in pits and nothing's going on, and we're all going to starve to death, and life goes on down here. You know, and I don't just mean in one small community. I mean, I've been, on my birthday, we took a drive, 50 miles away, and saw all kinds of different scenery in 3 different counties, and what was growing and who's doing what. And, And there are it's there are folks down here who are thriving, you know. So the rest of the world is coming to an end, but we've had a good year down here with the farmers. And despite all of the other differences and high gas prices, and regardless of, who the top family is in the world, you know, I might be sounding too, what blasé about it, but you know, I used to care. And what do the Rothschilds and who are the this and the Kardashian? Who gives a, you know? How about the smaller families and that are doing all the work, you know, down here on the ground, And how are the processes going and how are things working and are people working? And yes, people are working and they're not shooting each other. Not normally on a regular basis. There is that odd whatever. But down here in the South, um, society's kicking along pretty good. What does it mean for the folks in Russia? I don't know because we don't live there. Thank God we're not sending rockets at each other down here and bombing one another. We're getting along despite the politics, despite the craziness. People are going on and going along with their natural, with just everyday life. Hey Joe, how are you? Hey, 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 right back at you. You're waiting for you're I'm wishing for hemp butter. Okay. It's that way any crop it pays less with high waste material. Wow, Steve. Yeah, you're in a bigger drought than we are at the moment. But our lack of rain happened just at the right time this year. I mean, the time whoever's controlling the weather this year for South Georgia in this area, man, we got they got it right this year. I gotta say, they got it right this year. And there's been a bunch of years where it ain't looked near as good as this year has, with the cotton and the peanuts and everything growing. And there are a lot of other crops too. They've been growing kale, and they're fixing a lot of folks now at this time of year planting um, cabbage. Colquitt County is one of the largest cabbage producers in like the world as far as tonnage. It's amazing how much cabbage is grown here. So, where the rest of the world is doing whatever it's doing, life's still going on. And I don't know how it is in the rest of the world. But there are folks who are just like not paying attention about the Rothschilds, and we ain't paying attention to, them folks up there. We're living every day and we're producing. We're, getting along with families, or at least folks are trying. And there are some folks, at least down here, there are some folks who are just like they're they're not putting up with stupid, you know. They're pointing out stupid stuff. Um, like there are some folks who are still trying to insist on wearing masks. And but I went into the doctor's office yesterday and there was only one or two people that were wearing a mask at all. Of all these patients with the doctors and the nurses, there was only a couple of people that were wearing a mask. So, but there are still folks. Hey David Castle, how are you? Blessings and good wishes on you as well. But there are still folks who are going, oh, but you should be wearing them. Nah, come on. We've had enough of the mask stuff. But it's stuff, and you gotta, come on, you know. Now I'm going to the doctor, another a totally different doctor, and tomorrow for more tests. I've got cyst on my. I'm sorry, not cyst. That was, yeah, cyst on my kidneys. And I'm going in for that checkup and also for my prostate. And also, then next week, I go in for the old show. I guess it's going to be for the exam versus just going in and chatting, but I don't know. For my prostate exam, and where they shove the tube up your bunghole and take pictures and all, you know. Won't be my first go around with this. So, but at age 70, it's time to get, that done too. But my doctor's visit yesterday was all positive, and there's no cancer showing up anywhere. There's no strange abnormalities showing up anywhere in any of my tests. My heart exams and everything have come back well. My blood pressure has been staying down with God Almighty, all this freaking medicine I'm taking. But if it's what's going to keep me alive and keep me going, okie dokie. And I'm trying to get back. I've been working outside and doing stuff and getting some things accomplished around the house and trying to get my stamina back up. It was time for me to cut, a couple of trees down. I should have already cut them down, but I just haven't felt like holding on to a chainsaw yet. But I've done some brickwork around the house and some landscaping out front, and it looks totally different. It looks much better now, and it's time for me to put the windows in and really finish up my porch now because I've gotten most of the masonry work done now, and it's time to put up the framework for my windows. And so, I'm very excited about that. And after this is 3 going on 4 years that I've been working on this damn project, so it's about dead gum time, right? But I am staying busy, which is a good thing for me. But it's also I'm still trying to get used to. I think the medicines or whatever, something's still gumming up my brain. There are certain things that are just I don't know. Something has changed. Something in my paradigm has changed mentally, which has affected the spiritual, not in a bad way. If anything, it's kind of sort of made me a little bit more, um, I'm looking for the word, thinking more about something, cogitating on something a little longer, chewing my cud and going, having that near death experience with the heart attack and everything. It the whole my whole frame and my whole picture has changed because I have heart failure. I have a heart condition. I have symptoms. It's hard. I catch my breath, and that sets certain parameters within your lifespan, within who you are and what you are, and like what. So it's a brand new paradigm. But having had good results from the doctor yesterday, and he gave me a pill to help me with my prostate some and this constant peeing. And within 2 days of taking this medicine, I can already tell a difference. And I'm like, okay, add one more tiny little pill. It's once a day, but it's helping me control my wetting on the floor trying to get to the toilet just because I got to pee all of a sudden. I mean, having that control back is like, wow, in just 2 days with one tiny little pill. Hmm. So there are some good things I got to say about the pharmaceutical and medical field, especially when old age kicks in and certain body parts don't want to function anymore. Um, but I'm the bottom line and why I'm telling you this, I'm very grateful that my body is not giving up on me. And I realized that before my 70th birthday, I was sort of, internally, I think I was like, well, I've gotten old now. And well, these are my golden years. It's the end of my life, and I'm just going to fade off somewhere into the sunset, right? Okie doke. Well, this is sort of giving me, and I'm not sure if a new lease on life is the right way to put it, but it's given me a new value of life. That's an obvious. The value of life has just taken a different turn. I've always valued life, and I've always thanked the universe for the life that I've had, even though I've made a lot of dumb mistakes. I'm here and I'm in reasonably good health. And so I want to be thankful for that to the universe. And, now with all the tests that's been done and everything, it's coming back that I am in pretty good shape for my age and so forth. Thank God I don't have any cancers or anything showing up. I've got, spine issues that we are in the process of addressing because I told my doctor, I said, it's a shame, that I don't have any lung diseases or nothing like that, even though I've been a smoker. Yes, I've got a heart condition, but we're dealing with that. But other than that, I'm in pretty good shape. A lot better than people half my age, and in that respect. So, but what sucks is my lower back and spine is in such bad shape. I'm having trouble walking. I want to do something. I'm healthy enough physically, but I can't walk because of my back. So we're going to address that issue. Um, but and I talked with the insurance people today, and I said, y'all um, didn't want to approve some of my other X-rays because there wasn't proof. I'm 70 years old. I've got back issues. You can't accept that? And we need a CT scan. Do I need to get special permission because I'm 70 and I've got back issues and I would like to resolve them because I don't want to live in pain the rest of my life? I've been in pain. I've been putting up with this. But hey, if I ain't going to die tomorrow and the rest of me's in pretty good shape, then screw this. I don't want to live in pain. I want it checked out. If there's something we can do to alleviate my pain, please, and, you know, um, I obviously I'm going to live for a few more years, but I don't want to be in pain all the time. And I don't want to rely on pain medications. So, okie doke. But anyway, but all of this is giving me different frames of my mindset that I wasn't paying attention to before. So by paying attention to these different mindsets, it's given me a different depth of perception with what I was already kind of thinking on. So what I was already kind of thinking on, I'm going back over and kind of rethinking stuff because of the new paradigm. So I've been sort of quiet in that it's not necessarily that I'm reevaluating everything, but it kind of sort of is, like, wow, um, I'm not going to be dead tomorrow. Oh, wait. So I can plan for the future some. like, I've been planning on the future, but now that I've sort of gotten not a full clean bed of health, but pretty good for 70, I got stuff to look forward to. So why not look for the future, right? So in that different, it's hard for me to explain. That's one reason why I've just been sort of quiet lately, and that I'm still trying to get settled and figure it out a little bit, and not in a bad way. And if anything, it's made me, I feel more religious in my shaman thinking. However, I've done less drumming and less fewer ceremonies than I have before. And although I can still hear the drum in my head and I can still feel the drum with my feet, and I'm still barefoot most of the time, um, Now I'm wearing out socks. It's wintertime, and I put on a pair of socks for 3 or 4 days, and then I change socks, and just, I go through a package of socks, you know, in the wintertime. I buy a big package of socks, and because I hand wash most of my laundry, they don't get as clean as when you put them in a real laundromat. And so my socks are a little stained because I wear them outside, and I wear them like shoes. Um, but when I get holes in them, I just toss them out and buy another pack of socks. They're cheap, you know. Um, but anyway, it's cooler weather and it's sock time. Time to wear out some socks and keep the sock business going. For all this cotton that was grown down here in the South, I can wear cotton socks. But anyway, well, look, I didn't know that this had been an hour and a half that's been going on. I just wanted to get on here today and just talk about stuff, I guess. But being the fact that I honestly they flagged me. Hey Joe, but I don't see the garden registry going anymore. Oh, thank you, Joe, for hanging out. And that's another thing. Local gardens have not been a big deal. But there are folks that grow down here. Um, there are some farmers who are literally growing under glass now. They're big. Um, what do you call growing under glass? What artificial? No, internal. Growing indoors. Anyway, what the hell is the word? Somebody help me out. Greenhouses. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. In fact, that's one of my projects for this winter. I've got all the stuff to build a greenhouse out back, and stuff happened. I did all this land clearing in the spring, which I could have been using on building my greenhouses. My front porch that I'm going to do a video of to show what I've done. I don't know if anybody remembered what it looked like, but the fact that I am making progress and I want to show it before I start putting up the framework. But I did a lot of clearing this weekend and a lot of extra digging and landscaping, which all needs to be done in order for me to finish my greenhouse project. But it's my front porch, but it's also a greenhouse. I want to show the evolution with that, and I've got a lot of glass and stuff. And so now that I've gotten a better bill of health, um, and that I'm not going to die of this or that anytime soon. I've realized that I have let some projects slide because, well, I don't know, I'm getting old and I don't know if I want to work on that and I don't want to. And so I've let some projects slide, like my greenhouse, that I really need to go back to. And so in my reevaluation of stuff, I need to um, uh, clean my chicken pen back out and go. I've got neighbors who are growing chickens and who have eggs. I've gotten 2 free dozen eggs here in the last 3 weeks. But to have chickens myself again, um, they helped me to recycle weeds when I pulled them, and they helped to keep the bugs down, and they gave me fresh eggs, and they were my chickens. They were not that I was trying to take command of them, but um, it was the connection with the chickens, and I've had chickens for 20, 30 years now, or longer here on the place. And so for the last several years, I haven't, right? So, well, why don't I have chickens? I mean, I've got people who will give me chickens because I got too many right now. So I need to get back on that bandwagon. But and now that the weather has calmed down and cooled down, I'm very much into getting my greenhouse back on track again. And I've got all the stuff to do it. I've got all the windows that need I've got all the framing and everything. I just need to do it, you know. And so now I feel rejuvenated in some way, and I want to get back on those projects that I gave up. So I can grow indoors. I've got 55-gallon drums and 35-gallon drums. I want to be able to fill them up and put one drum higher so there's a trickle down um, water system. It'll be gravity fed, and so once all the water comes out of the drum, the it'll be like when you flush the commode. When the thing gets so low, it fills back up. So the drum will fill back up after it's all been gravity fed and gravity fed down a bunch of pipes. At least two sets and maybe three depending on what I'm growing. And then the water will be collected when it gets to the end, and then whatever is left and filtered out at the bottom can go back up to the top and run back down through the system again. So I've got it set up. I've got all the piping. I've got all the um, like I said, all the windows and everything to do it. I just haven't done it. Grass grew up and where I was going to do it. Other things happened, and I just haven't gone out the back door. I've been working all out in the front. So, but it's time now that it's winter time to go back out there and get because I love to grow greens. This is the time of year to grow greens and stuff down here. If you want to grow lettuce, now's the time to plant it. You want to grow broccoli, now's the time to plant it. That's why they grow cabbage down here in the winter time because it's much cooler, but it doesn't freeze for days and days and days normally. Um, and so where folks up north grow carrots and things and stuff and broccoli and lettuce, we grow that in the winter time down here. That's winter crops. So, I worked on farms where they grew, 10 acres of collard greens and 50 acres of mustard greens. And they'd go through with these mowers that would blow the greens up into the back of the trailers, and I would be the one when they'd bring the trailers in, they'd dump it, and I would spread the most of the time mustard greens out in the back of a big semi tractor trailer, and from the time that they loaded the greens on, they went straight to the cannery. I mean, straight to the cannery. They were offloaded right in. They were cooked, processed, and put into cans like almost immediately. Within 48 hours from cropping them to putting them in and driving them and taking them to the cannery, cooking, processing, canning them, 48 hours from the time they were picked in the fields. And that's honest to God's truth. Because you can't let it lay around. There's no way to refrigerate it. And so once these greens and stuff are cut, if you buy canned greens, they're, less than 48 hours from the time they were cut to the time they were canned. You can't get much fresher than that. Now, I have seen rats, live rats, and mice, field mice, and things, small birds, get sucked up into the blowers when they're mowing and cutting the greens. And they're running around. And could somehow some of these rat pieces or other things get caught up in mustards or turnip greens that you would buy in a store? And the answer is maybe, maybe, maybe. But that, the greens go through a lot of, they go through screens that kind of get rid of the mice and whatever. But the answer is maybe. There's a tiny bit that, yeah, that you might get a piece of mouse tail in there. I'm just saying, maybe, you know, because of the way it's done so quickly. And there are, stuff that gets sucked up into the machines, but the canneries, they really do the best they can to keep any kind of rodents or body parts out of their product. Because the last thing they want is a piece of a field mouse, in a can of greens that they have just packaged. But having been in many of these different processes over the years, I told somebody, they said, well, I love these canned mustard greens. And I'm going, yeah, well, why not, Dave? And I'm like, because I used to pack mustard greens when they came out of the field. And I've seen the rats and the mice run around on them when they on their way to the cannery. And I'm just yeah, okay, I'll eat them, but there might be some mouse parts in there, and so I'm just only slightly leery of eating certain greens that are canned. But anyway, that's from personal experience. But bugs can get into anything. I've got a, a rash of fruit flies that have got in the house, and they're difficult to get rid of. And oh my God. So I've got this drink, right? And I drink my little soda and I'll take a sip. I try not to do a lot of gulping. And I went to get a drink, and it'd been just sitting over here, just beside me here. And I go to take a drink, and I feel this stuff on my tongue. And it's these tiny little gnat like fruit flies. And I'm like, holy mackerel, they had crawled down inside of my can. And so I'm like, I just went ahead and swallowed them. I'm like, well, damn it. So now my intestines are full of fruit flies, you know. But it is what it is. Ain't gonna kill me. You know, is is a piece of mouse in some turnip greens or mustard greens primarily, um, but they're cooked greens, and yeah, a source of protein, right? Exactly. Also a falsa, can't wait. Oh, beets. Yeah, me too. In fact, I got some beet seeds. I was hoping to get some in the ground, but uh, the ground is so hard right now. Oh my God. I'm doing some landscaping out here from the front of the house where I had all the bricks stacked and all my concrete while I'm doing the front of the house. Well, now that I got all the brick work done and all the concrete work done all the way down across the house, I'm moving the pile and everything's cleared out now. There's no need to pile everything up there because I've done the work. And so it looks a lot nicer. Um, and but the ground is so hard because it's been so dry these last 5 weeks, 4 weeks. And I mean, I'm using an axe to break the clay. It's so hard, and which means it's more work for me where normally I could just shovel it, hit it, do it. So I'm busting my ass trying to do this little bit of landscaping work that under quote normal conditions I would have taken me less than half the time because it's hold the secret sauce. Yeah. But I mean, the greens are sent, right. I mean, when they're cut, they go right to the cannery. There's canneries in Georgia that I did not know about until recently. Well, it's been quite a few years now, but these folks that when they cut them in the wintertime, you know, and some of these fields that you can go back in and recut, the mustard greens will come back up. Um, and you may be able to get two cuttings, where some of the others, collards and whatever, they might not come back up to get another cutting. But anyway, um, but they go right to the cannery. They don't waste any time. If they're going to be refrigerated or put into freezer bags or whatever, they're cut and they go right away. They go within hours of being cut. They're at the cannery and or where the freezer section or whatever is the processing plant. They don't mess around. And the cannery and folks, they know ahead of time. The farmers will call them and they go, listen, we've got X amount of acres of greens. Last time we cut them, we got 4 tractor-trailer loads. And you know how much that is in weight. And they calculate and they say, okay, we'll be ready. And so them trailers go up there and dump it off, come back and get another load and take another load of greens up. And them folks put it right into the process and they go right into cans. They don't waste no time. Or freezer packs or whatever, depending on the processing plant. But it's amazing, and that kind of stuff's going on down here. So there are farms that have been almost every winter they grow some kind of green. And those greens go to a canning plant in Georgia. And, it's been that way for 20, 30 years now. And some of them even longer than that, because I've been here on this property for 40 years. And it was before I bought this property that I worked on those farms that cut the greens. But those farms are still there and they're still cutting greens, you know what I mean? And I'm assuming because they're still, canned greens on the shelves that the canning factory is still going, that they're still going on. So the process of food and who's making it and how it's being made, now, there are folks who are complaining that there are food shortages. Well, down here in the South, I can tell you, they're still growing food. It's still going to the canneries. It's still being, there are folks who have planted olive trees down here. And now there are, I would have never thought olives here in Georgia, but, they now have their own olive oil that they're selling. So where before it was like, you had to go to the store for olive oil. Now there are folks who are growing olives and who are making their own olive oil that, yeah, you might have to drive a little ways to go get it, but it's not like you have to depend on a store to get it. And so there are a lot of mom and pop farms that have cropped up down here in South Georgia that are growing all kinds of stuff. And if you can get it, you can order it online. Some of them they will send it to you, or you can go by the farm and pick it up. There's farms in Barney that they have a lot of peaches. They're the much smaller peach, but they have an ice cream stand. There are other things and produce that they sell during the year, and it's nothing more than a crossroads in the little town of Barney, which ain't much but a post office and a store or two. And that's it. But there are grain mills and there are farmers around. And, but so the local folks, and when I used to drive through that area, I would always want to, hey, we're going to stop in Barney and get some ice cream and and see what kind of produce or vegetables or well, produce is vegetables, but I was saying, and maybe what some kind of fruit that they have. And now that there are a lot of blueberry farms around here, they're in season. So we have blueberries and peaches, and where we didn't have blueberries before. We've got other things that are being grown around here. So this idea that there is a food shortage in the big towns and other places like that, I can see it. But in general, I would say the answer is no. You got to know where to go look for the food that's being grown. Just saying. Hey, Richard, I was thinking about you the other day. Um, and because I haven't been on lately, certain folks have been running in my head. And I was like, um, Richard and Steve, Joe, and all y'all, it's good to see you, man. Hey, Miss Delaney. I miss saying hi to you, even though my brain said hey. But so the craziness of the world, am I worried about Putin? I could. Am I worried about getting nuked? Not really. Why? Because we've got enough nuclear power plants around us down here that off gas radiation into the atmosphere. We've been getting radiated for a long time. I ain't worried about Putin. I'm worried about all these small nuclear plants that they're installing in places that are, quote, safe. Okay. Um, but every time something happens that they get a little overheated, they off gas this radiation to the atmosphere. And I'm downwind of one that's on the the Georgia Alabama line over there, just absolutely due west of me. So every time it off gases, it's coming this way. So why should I be worried about Putin and nuclear weapons when I got a nuclear power plant that's been shoving shit in the atmosphere for the last 25, 30 years now, you know, and they just doubled its size, I found out recently. So now it has twice the potential to throw shit into the atmosphere. Oh, joy. Oh, and that they converted the coal plant up in Albany, I found out. I think it's natural gas, but they were thinking about making a nuke plant. I've been inside the plant. They're huge generators, right? Huge generators. And coal fired made the steam, and they swapped it out, which, okay. Um, there's a lot of natural gas that passes through our area and that we don't get to use. I'm serious. We have a natural gas pipeline that every time I go into Moultrie, I have to cross over it. And there was a lot of years, a lot of discrepancies, and where are you going to put it, and it's going to have environmental impact. Well, here's the biggest thing is that there is these bunches of miles of natural gas pipeline that runs under the ground in several locations down here, but it goes all the way to the coast. We don't get any of it. We don't get the use of any of it. Moultrie doesn't get the use of the natural gas that gets piped right outside its city limits. No, it just bypasses us. So, but Georgia made money on it and it's there. And it's just odd to me that it ain't for none of us, you know? But the pipeline's there. It's covered underground, most of it is. And you don't really know it's there unless you knew what to look for on the sides of the roads of where it goes under the road and stuff. But, you know, um, Georgia has the potential because there's a lot of natural gas passing through where it's going to. It's going down to the coast. They're putting some of this and they're turning it into propane and loading it on the ships and taking it and selling it to other places. Oh, joy, oh, bliss. So, with the idea that there's nothing going on, that there's no industries, we're all going to hell in a handbasket, that all of America is going under, traveling around just down here in South Georgia, which is a sizable area. And from what I know from folks, across the line, that it's similar over in Alabama, that, life is still going on over there. In North Florida and the Panhandle, life's still going on down there. That all of this chaos and all of the oh my gods, we're all gonna die tomorrow kind of shit is just so much hype. That normal life is still going on. That folks have gotten over the mask issues. They have literally started, folks are just like not paying attention. There's very few arguments anymore. Like I said, it was in the doctor's office yesterday. Two people had a mask on, you know. I think one of the nurses did. None of the doctor didn't, and he touched me. He listened to my heart. Um, But I mean, so the folks are getting over the fear of being close or being touched. He didn't have rubber gloves on. I mean, so people are starting to get back to normal, you know. Now I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but folks are just getting back to normal. They're just acting normal. They're not afraid to touch you or to get close to you or give you a hug or something. They just it ain't there. But now I'm down here in the South, and us folks down here in the South, we do things different. But I'm hoping that the rest of the world, is getting along in their own way. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's still issues, and yeah, there are still crazy people in the in the school system, but the local school system, just up the road, the elementary school system, these folks are taking part. The PTA, they know the teachers, they know the farmers, they know these folks. So when they go to the PTA meetings, if they don't like something, they don't do it because they'll take they'll take somebody out behind the shed and whoop their butt, because no, you ain't teaching that in our schools. Nuh-uh. So, and I know some other schools that are down here in this area that they ain't putting up with stuff neither. So maybe in the bigger communities and there are some towns that their school systems, they think their shit don't stink. Like we can do this and we're going to do this because. And the folks are going, no, you ain't. No, you ain't. No, we ain't having none of that. So I'm hoping that the rest of the world will calm down because for folks down here in the South, I got to say, um, we should be we should be the example of the rest of the world and how we can get along, how folks are producing foods, how they're growing foods and and textiles, and how they're producing things for each other, and that as a community they get along, you know, and there's not a lot of shootings and murders and people raising their hands. And, there are black folks in the South who are mayors and commissioners and, and positions of, high rank, if you will. Um, and so it's not like there is any oppression. So if those of us down here in the South that used to be a slave driven economy, if we can learn to get along after all these years, y'all take a look at us and say, hey, take a chill, be a little more like us Southerners down here. Now, not all these Southerners are great and get along, but on a number scale, you know, the rest of the world should just take a peek and say, hey, you know what, them folks are getting along. There are farming communities, there are, in industries down there. I mean, they grow chickens, and there's beef processing, and there's food, and there's our metal manufacturers, and they make things down there. And oh my God, um, what about the rest of y'all? So anyway, I'm done with my tirade. It's been 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we've just passed the 20 again. I still got some in my bowl. We're doing well here in Kansas. I would love to have a slice of sweet, but oh my God, it is, and right now it's time for them to harvest sweet potatoes. They'll be digging sweet potatoes anytime, and it'll be time to go up to Omega, Georgia, where they are some of the king of the sweet potatoes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Sweet potato pie. Whew. And for those northerners, y'all eat pumpkin pie all the time. Now, we don't get rhubarb down here. Now, and I love I've had rhubarb pie. And so you northerners who get rhubarb pie, okay. But us southerners who have sweet potato pie, now I've had store-bought sweet potato pie, and people say, sweet potato pie. I'm sorry, that is not sweet potato pie. Until you've had shown up hot out of the oven, fresh sweet potato pie, you ain't had sweet potato pie. I'm sorry. But, folks who buy these frozen pies and their sweet potato, I've tasted several brands of them. And the pumpkin pies are better, but the sweet potato pies that they put out there that you can buy and stick in the oven and whatever, nah, they ain't. Those ain't sweet potato pies. Sweet potato pie should be about this thick. I mean, and dark. Now there are different types of flavors of sweet taters, and some of them are lighter in color. But some of these sweet tater pies that I've seen out of stores, oh goodness gracious, they're almost yeller. They ain't orange at all. They do not look. It does not look like a sweet tater, and doesn't taste like one neither. And they add so much nutmeg or pumpkin pie spice that it don't taste like sweet tater neither. So folks who have eaten sweet tater pie ain't really had it. Nah, until you have, taken shown up big ass sweet tater and peeled it and put it in the pot and balled it up yourself until it is of that consistency. And then you mash that tater and then put it into a pie and bake it in the oven with with some egg and a little bit of cream milk, or cream or milk, or and you whoop that up, and then you ain't had sweet tater pie. You just ain't had sweet tater pie. I'm sorry, but that's one of them things. And I remember this black lady. She was 80 years old when I met her. God bless her. And I've talked about this woman before, and I don't know her name, but she lived in mostly one room of this old nigger shack. And I mean it. She was an old black woman. And what she did was she baked pies and cakes for folks. And I was down there because working with the weatherization program. And now on the outside of the house, you'd have thought, well, that house don't look too bad. But in several of the rooms, it didn't have any inside walls and no inside ceiling. And she'd lived in this old nigger shack, literally. It was one of the old row houses from way back in the early slave days. And that was just the way she lived. And in the kitchen, it was so cold in the rest of the house in the wintertime, she just stayed in the kitchen. Well, if she had the oven on, she was baking something, so she stayed warm and she stayed cooking. And man, you could just get out the car outside her house and smell it. The pie is cooking. Well, when I first went and saw her, and then I had to go back a couple of days later and check on her. Well, in the meantime, she had baked me a pie, my own pie, and I couldn't resist. And she sat me down there in the kitchen, and it was like 28 degrees outside that morning. She made me sit down and have a glass of milk and have some of her fresh out of the oven. Oh my God, sweet tater pie. And I ate nothing any better than that woman's sweet tater pie in my life. Aunt Jemima, she had her hair done up. She had the big bum, and laughing and making jokes and honey, how you doing and what you doing, and just as pleasant as she could be. Um, but you would have swore she come out of the 30s. And in a way she had, because she was that old, she was 80 at the time, and just a bustling and a fussing and she had wrote down the simple instructions for sweet tater pie, how she made them, and they were so delicious. And it was just really simple, but I've lost them over the years. But to the point though, she was like, "Honey, them, she'd go like this. Them white folks don't know how to make sweet tater pie." And I was like, "You're right." I said, "Because I've had sweet tater pie from white folks, and it ain't like yours, honey." And and I've talked about it before. I've always got along with black folks for whatever reason, but for her to have like taken to me, and I measured her house, and then I went back to do a follow up, and then the that we sent workers down. Then it was my job to follow up. So they'd go down and work on the house, and then I'd go check in, make sure everything was done right. So I got to see her again. So, but the third time I went, she was like, "Honey, I'm sorry I ain't got no pie, but if you want me to, I'll go whip one up, and if you'll come back in a little bit, I'll bake you one right now." I mean, she was seriously, she was like, she lived down in Cairo, Georgia, and how long you going to be in town? And I was like, "Why?" "Well, I got some sweet taters. I'll start boiling them up right now. If you're gonna be here, I'll have you a pie done in a couple of hours if you'll come by." And I was like, I was so tempted. But the second time I met her, she had already made a pie just for me. Oh my God. But anyway, me and my sweet tater pie stories. But there's some other folks that I've met over the years though, that sweet tater pie, just yeah. And then there are those who go, "No, you know you got to make that sweet tater pie just right." It can't taste like pumpkin pie. No, it's got to taste like sweet tater. Oh God, you started me, Steve. Now I gotta go hunting for sweet taters. But this is the time of year, and they grow a bunch of them up and around Omega and up around Norman Park and up in there just south. Well, and up towards Tipton, Georgia too. But come to think of it, you can get a bushel of culls, where when they go through with the harrows to turn the potatoes up out of the ground, they'll get nicked. And so it's like, well, can't sell that one because it's nicked. Well, sometimes you can get a bushel of them culls for just a couple of dollars. And if you don't ain't worried about your sweet tater being nicked on the side, you can get a bushel of them for $3 or $4. Ain't nothing wrong with them except they got a nick in them, and taste good, and um slice them up and have fried sweet taters. Oh my goodness. Sweet tater chips, you slice them thin enough, and they're almost like potato chips. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I love the fact that we do grow, sweet taters down here. And I don't know about the rest of the country. I know Alabama grows some good sweet taters over there too. But the taste of the tater, like the onion, has to do with where it's grown. And the sweet taters that are grown around Omega, Georgia, and in the ground that's just down here is makes them taters good. Just like in Vidalia, Georgia, where the Vidalia onion comes from, you're not allowed to call any onion Vidalia. It must come from Vidalia, Georgia. It's a law. And because the soil up around Vidalia, Georgia is such that that is what makes those onions taste the way they do, just like wines in certain places in France or in California or whatever. It's the soil that makes them so good. And so over in Alabama, their sweet potatoes are good, but it's got a different flavor simply because they're grown in the ground and the ground is different, you know? So, but I gotta say, our South Georgia taters are some of the best. Orange and good all the way through and got a good, oh, yum, yum. Mm. But I've told this story before, but when I was in jail, I worked in the kitchen, and the sergeant of the kitchen was from Ellington, Georgia, which I went through Ellington just 2 weeks ago. And he was an old country boy, and on Sundays he would come in and do the menus for the upcoming week, and he loved his sweet taters. And so it was my job in the kitchen after church to have his fried sweet taters done. So I'd get up on Sundays and I'd have them fryers going. I'd have them sweet potatoes sliced just right and the right thickness. And as soon as I'd hear him coming up the elevator and I knew what time it was, them things hit that grease. And by the time he was up and come out the elevator, got in his store good, I'm the first batch of them fried sweet potatoes was coming out of the oil, and he would sprinkle sugar on them and sit in there, and I'd have a big old platter full of them, like this tall, full of big old sweet taters. And he bought a case of sweet potatoes a week, just so he and I could share sweet potatoes on Sundays while he was doing menus, because his old lady wouldn't let him have them at the house. Us down home folk just enjoy helping others. Yeah, we do. We jump in and and if it ain't too sticky or weird, no, we help each other out down here. How you been doing, Richard? Have you still got the recipe for that pie, Hawkeye? I'm gonna look around for it. It was really simple. It was like, two medium size or large, of course, we got sweet taters that grow this big down here, but you know, if you got two little puny sweet taters, you're gonna need more than that for a pie. So it ended up being so many cups of boiled sweet potato, um, and then like an egg, just a little bit of cinnamon, not much, just that because you don't want it to taste like something else, but that little bit of cinnamon just helps bring out that flavor of that sweet tater. But and some some would add just a pinch of salt, which is interesting, but it kind of helps sort of bring the sweetness out of the flavor. Um, But then, some butter. I think it was like one egg, and you kind of beat it up a little bit and mixed in that egg good, and the egg helped to fluff the pie up. And just like a little bit of milk, just a little bit, and then you put it in a pie crust and popped it in the oven and cooked her up. So it was very simple. You know, some folks like to add nutmeg. Okay. I like nutmeg too, but some folks just overdo it. And it's like a pinch of nutmeg to the point where you say, "Well, I can't taste it." Good. You ain't supposed to taste it. It's supposed to add to the texture and the flavor of whatever it is even with pumpkin pie. Folks are just throw in the nutmeg and throw in the cinnamon, and it's like I want to taste the pumpkin, I want to taste that, not all the other stuff you throw in it. Um, but that's what I mean by a true sweet tater pie. Them store bought ones that got so much nutmeg and other allspice they'll use in there. Nah, you know, stick with the egg and some um um canned evaporated milk. Regular milk is okay. It's makes it a little bit more runnier, but you want a little bit of cream taste to it. So you use a little bit of evaporated milk, like a quarter cup, and add to the mixture when you're mixing it up. And then just put that mess in a pie pan and cook it in the oven until it's firm. So, but anyway, we should have a a sweet tater pie eating contest this fall, and with Thanksgiving coming up, it's time for pie. I mean, it's always time for pie, but now it's the season for sweet taters down here. Now it's time for pie, for fresh pie showing up. Yum yum. And the fact that I love sweet taters so good, and also while I'm on the subject of sweet taters, um, boy, the acorns are falling out of the oak tree and hitting my tin roof, and sometimes it sounds like a gunshot. It's so loud. Um, in my study of Edgar Casey and some of his remedies and so forth over the years, and some of the things that you can eat that's really good for you and good for your brain and good for your system. And sweet potatoes is like way up on the list of really being a good food source for you, um, mentally and physically. And Edgar was like, and a if you've ever had a sweet potato souffle with sweet potatoes, it's whooped up and cooked in a pan, and a lot of folks put marshmallows on top and sometimes other things. Well, one of the things was that to put in them is pecans or pecans. And we've got a lot of pecans down here in the South, and it's coming time for the pecans to be coming in too. And um, so the pecans look like brains if you look at them, you know, and it's good brain food. Any nut is good brain food, more or less, especially where Edgar was concerning and keeping the body healthy. But one of the best foods was um, a sweet potato souffle with um, pecans in it, on it and around it, because of the food source of the pecans and of the food source of the sweet potato, like the ultimate, you know. Um, and when sweet taters are in during the season, I gotta say, man, I'm just like I love them. I could eat one a day, no problem. And I mean just skin and all. Wash it off, rinse it off, and put it in the oven and cook it till it's done. I used to nuke them, but I don't have a microwave oven. I haven't had a microwave oven in a while. But to put them in some aluminum foils when I got my wood heater going back over here, I'll wrap a couple up and stick them in there, or sit them on top and let them cook with the my wood heater. Ain't nothing better. And sometimes I've learned that you don't necessarily have to have aluminum foil every time, but it does help to keep the heat in. But I have just tossed them in there, you know, just the skin and everything, just to do like the old timers did. And it's easy to get a good bed of coals in this heater over here. And you could burn a tater in a heartbeat. It'd be so hot in there. So there's no sense in firing up the stove when the heater's going in the wintertime. So it's a win-win situation for me and sweet taters, and having the heater going in the wintertime. I might not necessarily need it so much to stay warm by, but if I got sweet taters that need cooking, it's a good reason to have the heater going. You know what I mean? It serves a dual purpose automatically. Uh, you know, and of course, I was looking at my one of my pots in there. It's a cast iron, and it needs to go on the stove and just heat up good. And because I didn't use it much last year, and it got a little rusty because the humidity's so high in the house. And so I need to, but I was thinking, a good stew to put on the stove over there. It's sort of like crock pot. But I've cooked things in the crock pot the same way I would cook it in my cast iron Dutch oven, and the cast iron tastes better than the crock pot every day. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the electricity in the pot. It's the same beans. It's the same meat. It's the same everything I put in the crock pot. But it tastes different on the stove over here in the cast iron pot. Same everything, but it's better in the in the Dutch oven. Now, I haven't figured that one out. And I got one crock pot that I know of, and I haven't used it in years. And I actually should, but it's something to heat up a house in the summertime, and I don't eat that much. But now that it's wintertime, it's time for a stew. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I've yacked enough at you. Um, oh yeah. Well, if you were here at the house, especially if I was cooking up some stuff, I've had folks that have traveled around. I make um, um, a black beans and rice, frijoles negros, that my brother who traveled the Mediterranean in the Navy, he came back and he goes, Dave, he said, I've had black beans all around the Med. He goes, You make the best. Right here at home, man, you make the best. And I make up a big pot of, I can't make a little bit of black beans and rice. I got to make a pile of them. But I cook them down. I add sausage to it, and I got my own little recipe, and and then just regular rice. But for American, that's not necessarily American food. But I'll tell you something: if you want some sort of down home, then what you want is some chicken and yellow rice. Mm-mm. Now that'll put a hurting on you. If you've never had chicken and yellow rice, done like down here in the South, then, oh man, that's a meal. Now I like chili, but chili don't like me. So that's one thing that I'm just like, I get a couple of bowls of chili like all winter long, I'm good. Where some folks are like eating it, all the time. Nah, it just has never gone over with me. There used to be a place that, to go get a chili dog. Oh man, I mean, eat two chili dogs in a heartbeat. I mean, just almost swallow them whole. They'd be so good. But to just sit down and eat a bowl of chili, uh, only a little bit of every winter. But as far as a lot of folks eat chili all the time. I'm not one for it. I'm just not. I don't mind other folks though, and I'll take a taste. But as far as a regular diet, nah, not me. And having lived around a lot of Spanish folk, and my pops made some pretty good chili, and he was from Ohio. Um, and I've learned how to make chili over the years myself. I don't like it hot, but I like the chili consistency with the beans and the meat and everything. But I don't like it spicy. If you want to add some, your own hot tamale sauce to it and spice it up yourself, you go right to it. You can take your jalapenos and put them on if you want to, but now for just chili, as far as the consistency and everything, yeah, okie dokie. But if I'm going to do beans and something like that, then my preference, I lean more towards black beans and rice versus chili. Different kind of bean and cooked similarly, in my opinion. But I'd rather have the black beans and rice versus chili and rice or chili. But anyway, all right, my friends, I'm almost 3 hours into here. You use different kinds of meat in chili? Yeah, me too. See now, for some of the things that I do, now I haven't used it in a while because my local stores don't carry it. But I used a turkey sausage um, in some of the stews that I've made over the years. And it's just ground turkey sausage that you get just like you'd get pork sausage or something else. And but it was the spices in it that made it good, like a breakfast sausage it was. And so since I just don't do pork, I substituted the pork sausage for for the turkey sausage and the consistency and everything. So you make a roux. You do the sausage up and you stir it in its own stuff and you get it nice and gooey and it's simmering good and it's cooked down really well. And then you add the beans, and then you start cooking the beans in with it, you know. But man, you got to get that roux down just right before you ever add a bean to it, right? So, so, but in that, I've used different, when you make that basic roux, um, when you're cooking down the meats and everything to add whatever. So the same thing with the chili, I would make my chili the same way to where I cook the meat down into this sauce and I make sure that that sauce is like good and it's the right consistency. And then I add the beans and folks do it different ways, but um, as them Cajuns say, you got to get that roux right, huh? Got to get that roux right, and that's what you're cooking down in the bottom. So you're adding for me, I'm adding olive oil, and maybe some fat back in there, to add a little bit of grease to the thing. Because if if now there are folks who use hamburger meat instead of sausage for their sauces, which is okie dokie. And I think that's why folks like mine a little bit better, is because I was using sausage, and the sausage had its own sausage flavor, which added that extra flavor to the meat and to the sauce. And then, of course, I'm using fresh ingredients like fresh bell pepper and, chopped up, and, fresh onion in there. And there might be canned mushrooms, but just like anything else, canned mushrooms are just has a just as good a texture as fresh mushrooms, especially when you can't get them. But chop them up in there, and get that roux going good, and then you add what you're going to have with it. So make me hungry just thinking about it. So we're going to have a cook off this fall. Anybody want to come to the house? I got all kinds of big pots and pans. We could cook like hell if we wanted to. So, and the local store would get us most of what we needed from a local place. So, but anyway, I love you all. It's been several hours now that I've sat here and yacked about all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, Richard, if you was in the neighborhood, you just pick what you want and we'll cook it up. Now, there's one thing I'm not good at, and that's like fried stuff. I'm just not very good at fried stuff. Like there are folks I know who can do fried chicken. It ain't me. you know, But stews and different types of things like that, buddy, there are folks who had come from out of town to come eat some of my food back in the day. So, but anyway, yeah, I feed you. Don't go away hungry. All right. So, beef, pork, venison, lamb, bison, and elk. We ain't got all that down here yet, Steve. Man, now you got me. Well, God bless you as well, there, Richard. And how's it going in your neck of the woods? Okay. For whatever reason, the other day I was like, knowing your handle, I was like, Richard the Red, and I was thinking of somebody else, and I was like, for some reason, you're just through flashed right in front of my eyeballs, and I was like, well, I hope everything's okay, you know. And then my thought was, I haven't done a video recently to where I was up late enough to be able to talk to folks in other parts of the country and world and stuff. And I was like, well, I hope Richard and them, and I hope folks are doing well, and you know, and it's my duty to get back on the air and check on folks, So anyway, just recently, it doesn't seem like I've had a whole lot much to talk about because my brain's just been trying to resettle after the heart attack thing. I mean, it's all been good. It's just been really creepy and weird at times. I mean, really creepy and weird at times. Like other dimensional kind of stuff poking through weird, creepy stuff. And so I want to get down and talk about some of this stuff, but I've been trying to understand it and observe it and see if it's just temporary. Oh, and by the way, since y'all are still here, five of you, it says, we were supposed to have all these big things happen at the 1st of October. Well, here it is, the 12th, and I ain't seen nothing yet. That bridge got bombed in the Ukraine, and that's is part of the a bigger picture deal, but as far as aliens landing, and as far as that um, um, cosmic wave that was going to hit us, and we were all going to feel the change. I ain't seen nothing yet about that neither. So I ain't got nothing else to do but to wait. Not that I'm waiting on that, but you know, we'll see. If it does or doesn't hit. But all of these precognitions from folks talking about how October was going to be the month, and it was for sure this time. And okay, here we are. I'm still waiting. Okie dokie. Where's it at? Where are the aliens? Where's the technology? Where's the new stuff? Where is it? Y'all said it was going to be by, okay, where is it? So I do know that it exists. I do know that there are other platforms and alien folks and technologies, and just going to the doctor here this last month with the different tests I've had. I went into this little chamber to have this breathing test done, and they actually close it all the way, and you're sitting in this cylinder with plexiglass or type thing, and they add oxygen to the thing. So there's more pressure in this chamber. And the lady didn't know how many atmospheres extra than outside, but that there's an oxygen tank literally sitting right outside and hooked into this gizmo that you're sitting in, which was very clean cut. And it was odd because I was curious as to how they made it, because I couldn't find any weld lines and how it was formed, and the curvature, and it was interesting. But that you breathe into this machine that registered on a computer as the nurse checked it. So you had to take a deep breath in and hold it, and then do a panting. So you had to go until she told you to stop, and then you had to breathe in all the way and then out until she said out, 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 out. And I was like, man, I think I'm going to collapse my diaphragm from trying to get all the air out, right? For the amount of count that she gave me. And so it was a very interesting test, which my doctor did not have the results of, but um, they test you, and then they make you take in a puffer and breathe in, and then you wait 5 minutes, and then they make you go through this test again. And this odd little contraption right here, which I thought was just amazing in how they designed it, are nose plugs that you had to wear so that you couldn't breathe out your nose during the test. And so the whole thing was interesting, but the fact that it could gauge how much vacuum and how much cubic whatever you could breathe and how much air, and the fact that you sat in a chamber that had more atmospheres than outside. And I don't know how much the test cost, but I was in there for a good 30 minutes for the whole test easily, where everything else would just pop in and pop out. But they've used, you know, sound waves with sonic to check my kidneys and my bladder and everything. They did the same to check my aorta. So from the days of old, um, when my grandma and grandpa were alive, where they had to be invasive, or they took an X-ray and guessed. Now they have all this modern equipment, and CT scans and all of these things that can just check you in a minute, and I think folks need to be grateful about that. And having gone through the system, and I'm going for tests tomorrow and next week, um, we'll see how things go, you know. So modern science, it's, come a long way, baby. So we can be grateful for that. But anyway, it's been an experience to since the old days of, taking it 20 minutes to do a CT scan to walking in and laying down. Okay, y'all going to start, and they go, okay, we're done. Like what? So I think that's a good thing. You know. So right on for modern science, and I kind of skipped off of ET, but some of this stuff that I've seen seems space-like. Like who told them to do it this way, or how did who taught you? Well, here's an idea. Here's an idea, and maybe ET instigated, like, if you do these tests like this, you can gauge a person's lung capacity. Oh, really? Yeah, and here you go, and try it like this, and next thing you know, that's what they're doing. Or how fast the CT scans are going now. Um, I know we've come a long way, baby, in the last 30 years, but my friend that used to work on CT scanners and how long it took and how complicated they were, and having had many CT scans of my neck, having been through them and having had to lay still and having had to use contrast and this and that and all the pain and suffering, and to now just they're in and out in no time. That's amazing. That's good. So, cheers. I wish you all good health. I wish you all blessings and cheerfulness. The two cards I pulled tonight on Robert's channel was deer upside down. And we have to remember that deer, through its gentleness, chase the demon away. And the road um, to, Spirit Mountain, where Great Spirit resides, is open to all of us. And that the fear of the demon that used to haunt the road is gone, if you will believe it. And so, if you have no fear, then the way to the Great Spirit and to the Creator is always open to all people at all times. It's only fear that blocks us. Religion blocks us. Other people's ideals will block us. But when we just understand that Creator and the Great Spirit is all around us always, just accept it and believe it. It's easy, right? I'm almost passed out during that test. Oh, you had it done too? Yeah, but I got hyperventilated, and she was like, "Can you ready to come out?" And I was like, "No, I'll sit here for a minute." And it's hard not to, do a test like that without getting some hyperventilated. Unless my headache gets worse, I'll wait until my annual check in November. Yeah, I don't know how I did, but I know I made it through the test, which I was like, wow. So, did you sit in a similar contraption, Steve? Because I just found the contraption to be like it was cylindrical, it was a certain size, and and I looked around in it and I was like, it felt space age. I would it just what? Um, huh, interesting. How did you feel as far as the machine itself? I just, it, maybe it's just because I haven't been in any kind of medical anything in the last 10 years, good or more, Um, but having, I've been tested and x-rayed and all kinds of other stuff. I've been operated on 3 times for my neck and 3 times for my legs. So I'm not anything new to hospitals and being operated on, but or being x-rayed or, probed or whatever. But sitting in that gizmo, it was like it felt space age. I don't know how else to explain it. How it was constructed. I had seen the machine before. Yeah, but it wasn't especially odd. It just seemed like, wow, just the way it was constructed and its own little thingy. And I was like, it just space age. But anyway, all right, I'm tired. I got to go to bed. And I've been here 3 hours. And I do have appointments tomorrow, and I don't want to miss them. So MRI scanners sound like German techno music inside. The all of the beeps and taps. Space age. Yep, I I agree with you. That ding dong ding dong. Yep. That's some weird stuff going on there. Absolutely, them MRIs. I haven't had one of those lately. But since my doc has agreed to send me in to have my lower spine checked, I know they've got fancy stuff that they have done in the last 20 some odd years, since I've been involved with anything spinal, for myself. That now, they've got pain clinics where they can put epidurals in and give you a shot in your spine, and it will take the pain away at least for a couple of months or sometimes only weeks. And I've had a series of those shots before, but from what I understand, they've made great improvements and that they can help alleviate back pain uh, with whatever spinal things they're using now, um, that just weren't available back in what I consider back in my day. So it's time for me to, I talking with my own doctor yesterday. He was like, "We need to send you to the spinal specialist we have in town and pain management, and let him take a look and see if there's something specific they can't do to alleviate your pain." And I was like, why not? If I'm in decent shape the rest of the way, living with this lower back pain the way I do and not being able to walk, if these guys can poke around in there and do some non invasive, so you get a shot or two once every 2 or 3 months or whatever the regime is, but it helps alleviate my back pain to where I can live, I'll take it. So, anyway, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I love you and keep up the faith. It ain't as bad as all that everywhere. So I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings in the universe. I continue to pray each and every day when Duggar and I go outside to play, that each and every one of you and your friends, family will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and all the many blessings that are around us every day. And I mean, we're just swimming in the universe that is the Great Spirit, So Believe, 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 believe. And I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many, many blessings in the universe. And just say thank you to the universe every day. Thank you, guys and gals. Accept the grace that is given, and smile. I was so pleased to see Dragonfly and the Deer as the cards I pulled tonight. And Dragonfly is about joy. And the upside down Dragonfly is that I think that too many people have lost the joy in their lives. And regardless of what's going on, you still got to keep it, and the same thing with the deer, with the innocence. So many folks are worried about their spiritual well-being and this and that, and what whose religion is right and wrong, and what Bible's good or bad. When how about just understanding that being kind every day and following the golden rule of to do no harm, and that that God or the Creator is around us always. We just need to accept it and allow it to come in, and all kinds of things will happen and change. And you know, I was in a lot worse shape than I am now, and I hate to be the living example, but there's so many other folks that are dead and gone, and I'm still here, and I can't figure it out. And all I can say is that I changed my regimen. I changed my way of thinking. I started accepting, that the Creator was all around me all the time, and my health is, you know, uh, for my age, is doing pretty good, and I'm grateful for that because I've trashed my body for years. I've smoked for 50 years. Actually longer than that, but to the point though that I should have had lung cancer and this, and I should have been dead from a lot of other stuff. But the idea though that I've realized that I have changed my lifestyle, and so yeah, I don't drink and do drugs anymore, and I have cleaned up my life in a lot of ways, and I try to eat healthier. Well, I do eat healthier. Not that I try, I do. And I stay away from fried foods and things and stuff, and and stayed away from a lot of sweets and things. And I went from 250 pounds at one time to where I was weighed yesterday, and I was 178. So I've lost a couple of pounds. That's good. You know, my body weight ratio is like perfect. So you can do it too, is my motto. If I can do it and gunky as I've been, y'all can do it too. And why not? Let's live as long and as happy as we can, and um, those things that we can, I still had my cake the other day. Um, but when it was done, I was like, okay, I've had enough cake for now, rather than wanting to have cake every day or whatever. I've got my little sweets that I take, but they're limited, um, and so I don't have to worry about diabetes. I'm going to go have my kidneys checked tomorrow. We'll find out how that goes. But I've got cysts on my kidneys, but I've heard that it is common, and we'll see what the treatment is and how we go next with it. But anyway, so good morning, everybody. Cosmic hugs. I'm all the time sending prayers out to you. So I hope they do well. All right. Have your cake and eat it too. Sugar makes us happier. Thank you, Michelle. I've been sending you prayers even though I've been quiet. Richard, right back at you. And y'all just have a great day and a great week. Yeah, it, wait, it's Wednesday now. Wait a minute. Tuesday. Yeah, this is Wednesday. Okay. All right. I love you. I'll see you all soon. I'm going to do a reading one of these days. I just got to get through some of this stuff first. Okay. And I will talk to you all soon. And please be safe. Cheers, everybody.